Welcome to Fast Politics.
Molly Jong-Fast.
Rick Wilson. What's
How are you
going
doing
on,
this
man?
weekend?
I did 3 hours of live television on MSNBC, and I'm back next weekend on the weekend prime
Woo!
time. If
Give Molly a
anyone
show.
still
Give
has
Molly a
cable,
show.
if you still have cable, you should watch me on it. Hello, friend. Nothing's happened this
No, it's been
weekend.
a very boring, quiet weekend, and
Just
nothing at all is going on with the president of the United States telling his deputy attorney general to pardon a woman who ran the largest child trafficking, sex pedophile rape ring in modern history. Other than that, it's pretty quiet.
So let's talk about Todd
Yeah.
Blanche meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, because I think here's what I want to talk about. So I actually talked to, when I was doing this MSNBC show last night, the weekend prime time, which you can watch this weekend. When I was doing it, we were talking to this woman who has been a DA, and she was saying, I said, "Is Todd Blanche alone with Ghislaine?" And she said, "Absolutely not." She said, "There's somebody there taking notes, there's somebody else." So the question is, so he's not alone. So even if he's with his people, he still cannot say things like, "The boss knows you didn't see anything."
Right.
So
We hope. Now, what we don't know, and I think it would leak if Blanche said, "Everybody else, I need the room, just me and
right,
her."
right, for sure, for sure.
I think that would leak. I do think, though, we've got to keep our eye on the fact that Ghislaine's attorney and Todd Blanche are friends. They have a
Yes.
friendship, a relationship, however you want to call it. They've been on podcasts together, all this other stuff. There is a link between these two guys. So I think we need to keep, you know, that is how I think the communication would happen. Todd would say to him, "Hey, buddy," you know.
Right.
Um,
So that, but here's the thing about this. You've opened a conspiracy theory, right? You've
yeah,
opened the door to a huge conspiracy theory. The people, all his people want is information. So you're going to do what? You're going to have Ghislaine testify?
it was.
Wha
She's gonna. I think the fix that they're working up is she's gonna say, "Oh, of course, it was George Soros and Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and Hillary Clinton, and John Podesta." She will. This is a woman who is not raised to live in prison.
Right, no
Second
question.
only to you, who would not
Thank
thrive
you.
in prison. I
Thank you,
think she's
dear.
right
Thank
up there.
you. Jesse has turned on his camera to give us a look, which is like, a look of horror.
Like
Um,
that's the Jesse. What the hell? Look.
Listen to me. I'm happy to, if it's my time to go to prison, I will. I will go to prison and not like it. But
But will you shank a bitch?
I cannot comment.
I can neither
Um,
confirm nor deny
I
my
neither
desire to
confirm nor
shank someone.
deny. But so here's a question. So as someone who occupies Earth One still, is one of the very few people who still live on the actual Earth where
Right.
things make some sense, a semblance of sense. Her coming out and being like, "I've gotten a pardon, everyone," that strikes me as not. I just don't understand how that will get rid of conspiracy theories.
It
Won't
it
that
it
add to
actually
them?
will it actually will make it worse. And I have a theory of the case, Mo, and I'm curious what you think about this. I think there's a part of Trump. He says, okay, if Ghislaine comes out and says, oh, it was Bill Clinton, oh, it was this Democrat, that Democrat, this Democrat, that Democrat, I think Trump thinks that will be enough for his people. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think they're going to buy it and say, "Oh, well, it's all better now. Good thing we released a woman who ran a pedophile ring from prison."
Yeah.
I don't think he has that much latitude with them anymore.
So that's the question. And also, Trump doesn't want this to keep going.
Really?
So doing more, like, I think the grand jury testimony idea was that what would happen is he would say, "Let's release the grand jury testimony,"
Right.
and everyone knew it wouldn't be released, so they'd be like, "Oh, we tried to get the grand jury testimony released, but
Yep.
we couldn't get it released." But I'm not convinced that even that just extended the news cycle.
And he has made every wrong move on this, Molly. Whatever mojo Trump has had for 10 years that left all of us going, ah, shit, he changed the news cycle again.
Right.
It's not working now. And he, even though he's had to run away to Scotland for the weekend to try to avoid it, he's still getting hit in Scotland on it. He's still taking damage. He can't stop the drip, 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 even if he puts Ghislaine in front of the camera. And she said, "Oh no, Donald barely knew Jeffrey. He went to one party and left early."
Right.
They're
But then
his own
but
people
you have
don't
the
believe it
flight
now.
logs. You have the flight does
Yeah,
that if you have the flight logs, how does that work? So, Jeffrey never knew him except for these flight logs.
right. And they ran into each other in New York occasionally. But here's the thing. First off, I think even our terrified media,
Right.
once this breaks, will chase her down like a wild animal. The answer to this story will not just be, "I have no further comment."
Right.
She will never have a day of peace, no matter what. I also think, and I heard over the weekend that one major outlet is looking at going back and doing stuff on the victims finally, which I
Right.
think
There
is,
are more than 200 victims.
yeah, which I think that, right. I think the number's around 200, and I think if they do that, that also extends the story, because you know what Donald Trump will do. "Oh, I barely knew her. She was a crazy slut," or whatever he's
Right.
gonna do. It's gonna be E. Jean Carroll, only worse.
But even, just when Lawrence read the testimony of these girls
Yeah.
who were groomed at 14 and dismissed at 18 because they
Yeah.
were too old, it was pretty jarring to hear that. I mean, I think of
Yeah, it's
myself as
horrifying.
pretty cynical, and I was like, "Whoa," you know?
I that was a hell of a piece too, by the way, that he
Yeah.
did, but
Yeah.
but it is it I mean, and that is really all the sort of "ha ha, we got you" MAGA flippancy aside, they really are having to ask themselves a question right now, and it is, am I okay as a MAGA supporter, as a Trump supporter, am I okay with Donald Trump, to protect his political position, freeing a woman who's sexually abused and who groomed and provided underage girls for rape, because that's what it was, to Jeffrey Epstein and whoever else is on the list. I mean, I think a lot of them are having I mean, I don't know if it's their first moral quandary, but it is a moral quandary for a lot of them where they are. And the more prominent ones, I think, are also processing this like, there's going to be a post Trump era. Am I going to die on the hill of defending Donald Trump's friend Ghislaine Maxwell?
Right. It's a
Greg
real
Kelly
question.
is, apparently, but
Well, Greg Kelly has a complicated relationship with being accused of things, as you and I both
yes,
know. It does not
very much
shock
so.
me that Greg Kelly might, in fact, have some problems,
Yeah, to put it
Yeah,
mildly.
have some problems understanding why sexual abuse is bad.
Yeah, to put it to yes.
To put it very mildly. I wonder
Yes.
if we could talk about kind of what the calculus here is for Trump world. We have scandals coming from different parts. It feels like a leaky boat. So we have Hegseth scandals, right? We have more stuff leaking about the Signal chat. We have some we
The
definitely
whole
see that.
polygraph scandal.
Right, so there's a polygraph scandal where he's polygraphing people for leaking to the press. There's this other scandal where he is sending classified information on Signal. So he's moving people around. He hired someone from Doge. He fired them. There's a lot of like really,
I think if the Epstein story had not broken, Texas would be gone.
yeah,
I know that Trump still has a warm spot in his heart for Pete Hegseth because he's good on TV, but I think the handful of semi quasi dimmy himmy responsible adults in the White House recognize this guy is a disaster. And I was told by a foreign diplomatic person about a month ago that he is not welcome. They don't want to talk to him.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, and
it
he
is
is
it is
the
reached a
head of
point
the
where they're like,
DOD, which
he's
is a
unprofessional,
real
he's
bummer.
dangerous, and he's weird. Now, I think the DOJ scandal is I think we are days, not weeks, from Bongo leaving, either
Well,
being
that
thrown off or fired or leaving on his own 2 feet.
And and the reason that you say that, I think, is because of the post last night where
That is
Bongo said,
correct.
"I have seen things." This
That
is
have
deputy
scarred my
FBI.
soul or something.
Right. And
Yeah,
so that means if he's seen things that scarred his soul, that means that he is saying that the admin is not showing the MAGA crowd everything they want to see.
that's right.
And that means that eventually somebody's going to have to go because either Trump gets rid of Bongino or Bongino gets rid of Bondi.
I have heard that Pam Bondi has cashed all her chips in with all of her various patrons. Brian Ballard, very influential lobbyist in Trump universe, has been apparently like, "I will die on this hill, sir. She must not be thrown out. It would be the worst thing for us." Yada yada yada.
But it
I
is. I
think
mean,
she's in trouble, though. I think she's in trouble. I mean,
if you have a
the
choice
base is never
between
going to give up on her. They're never going
yeah,
to stop hating her.
but if you have a choice between Bongino, Bondi is it just does anything Trump wants.
Yes,
Bongino does not.
he's a
So if you
wild
have
card.
right. So if you have a choice between Bongino and Bondi,
Oh yeah,
Bondi's really tight with the Qataris. Bondi
yeah,
would be the play in my mind.
yeah, yeah, yep. But the problem I think that they're having about firing Bongino is they understand that Dan Bongino has a notoriously poor impulse control over his temper and his tongue.
Right. Right.
And while he's trying to play the role of, "I am now a federal official at a senior level in the FBI,"
Yeah.
they also remember he's a lunatic,
Yeah.
batshit crazy, short fuse podcast bro.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna be out there, I think, as something that worries them. They're probably worried that if they fire him and it's not like, "Dan has to spend more time with his family," it'll be that he could pop and say
Yeah.
some crazy shit. And again, going back to what we talked about last week, this whole pedophile thing in their heads, this belief that it's the Rosetta Stone to breaking the Democrats. The Democrats are all eating children, blah, 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 all that crap.
Yeah.
I think Bongino believes that shit.
You still think he
I
does?
still think he does. I think he believes it still. And he knows there's a critical mass of MAGA types out there who either, if they don't fully believe it, they believe it enough that it's causing them great anxiety now because of the cognitive dissonance of Trump's defense of Maxwell and Trump's cover up of this story.
And that's the 10%. That's 10% of Trump's base that
Yep.
Fabrizio says is QAnon adjacent.
Yes, and those people have a there's a big disadvantage for the Republican Party broadly with those people. They were low propensity voters before Trump.
Right.
They've been high propensity voters since Trump. And if their relationship with Trump is broken somehow, I think they become low propensity voters again, and they just throw their hands up and say, "Screw it, I'm not going to do this. They all lie to me. The elites even got to
Right.
Trump." But Elon Musk has got a new party for him, and they could absolutely hunt the pedophiles in the America Party with Elon Musk.
Yeah, I'm sure the America Party is gonna do great because
It's gonna
Elon has
it's
really
gonna be
just killed it with
fantastic.
everything he's done since Tesla. It's
It's
really
gonna
good.
be fantastic. It's gonna
He's
go
when
great.
he veers non-rocket, the stuff he does is just beyond. Like, you stick to the rockets
Build the fucking
and
rockets. Just
build
build
the
the
fucking
Falcon
rocket.
rockets. They do great. Don't try anything complicated or with too many moving parts.
Right. Exactly. So Congress is out. The Senate is still in. I think they're going out soon for the August recess. We'll
Yeah.
come back and we will have elections in New Jersey and the state you are in right now. What state are you in right
The
now,
great
Rick
state of
Wilson?
Virginia, the
And
Commonwealth.
tell us what's happening in the Commonwealth.
Well, look, the governor's race, statewide, and the legislative races in Virginia and New Jersey happen in the off year, the
Right.
off cycle. So this year we have potential to get into Virginia and start to roll some real numbers up in
Right.
the legislative side. We also have a really consequential governor's race because Abigail Spanberger is right now blowing the doors off this race, raising money, running a
Tell us
perfect campaign
tell
against a
us who
woman
the
named,
Republican is.
oh,
Because
yes.
she's one of my favorites.
There's an African American woman named Winsome Sears. And
Right.
Winsome Sears is one of these people for
Loves
whom,
guns,
for
loves
whom,
Jesus.
for whom the Lord speaks to her very directly and has told her that Donald Trump is the way, the hope, the light, and the faith. And that
Eh,
has really burned her
yeah,
campaign. She
I'm
tried to get a
sure.
little less Trump adjacent. and her own people devoured her.
It's
The
the
MAGA movement
problem.
just tore her apart, and right now, they're kinda stuck with her
Yeah.
because she's Chris LaCivita's client,
Oop,
and
whoops.
LaCivita is apparently in raging fury all day, every day. They can't find anything to get a hold of Spanberger on in terms of oppo or policy stuff. Spanberger is not taking the bait. I mean, the
I
Republican
wanna
Party's thing now is, oh, what about trans athletes? And
can
Spanberger's like, what about cost of living?
can I ask you a question? Because I
Sure.
wanna talk about this. So,
Yeah.
Megyn Kelly, in her infinite wisdom, had
He's
on
very angry.
she's very angry. She had on, this guy, Rahm Emanuel, perhaps you've heard of him,
I
and
do
she
kind of.
said, "Rahm,"
Yes.
she said, "Rahm, can a man become a woman?" And Rahm said, "No." Now, question, if
Mhm.
I had been asked that, you know what I woulda said?
What?
"It's none of my fucking business."
Right. I don't
Wha
care. And by the way,
I
how's your homeowner's insurance? How's your health
but I
insurance
mean,
costs?
but it's also like, why do you care what other people
So
do with their
so actually,
bodies?
Molly,
It's like
I've come up with a new line on this. I was with a group of Democrats yesterday and giving them a little bit of communications advice, and a candidate said to me, or a person said to me, an advisor, not a candidate, said to me, "Okay, so what happens when they hit my client with trans bathrooms, all that shit?" I said, "Listen, you just look them straight in the eye and you say, 'You seem really interested in trans people. I don't want to see your browser history. I don't care what you're interested in that. You're obsessed with that. That's weird to me, but I'm obsessed with lowering the cost of living, making sure people can afford housing and healthcare and get jobs. But if
right.
you want to keep talking about that stuff, I'm sure there are websites about trans people that you could spend a lot of time on."
I mean, it just seems like why like, it's other people's bodies, it's other people's if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're this or you're that, I don't care, it has nothing to do with me what other people do in their bedrooms.
The idea of the trans thing as the culture war issue of our time, the Republicans won in part using that issue to motivate African American, Hispanic, and young white men away from the Democrats, because that is an issue they care about in some weird sort of visceral level. But the problem with the issue for the Republicans is they are now playing what I call the one note flute.
Right,
After a while, everybody's like, "Okay, yeah, I get you're obsessed with trans people. Whatever your problem is, that's your problem. I'm obsessed with," you gotta bridge out of this because they really would like to do, "The
right,
Democrats are all trans Antifa," or whatever the, crazy
right.
shit of the day is.
Rick Wilson, will you
Molly
come back?
Jong-Fast,
Will you come
uh,
back?
you know I will.